XY axis is a plane of existence in a two-dimensional realm. The XY axis 2D realm only exists on paper or on the page. The written word is this 2D plane of existence. I can write my name on a piece of paper and it's on an XY axis. So in order to get into the three-dimensional world of reality, you have to take the Z axis 90 degrees into that plane of existence. Otherwise, you're not able to get into consciousness. The XY axis 2D realm only exists for those who live on the page through the words. In other words, the title can live on the page in the XY axis, but me, the living man, can never live on that page. There's no living aspect in a book or on a page. They created a world that is a story. Everything is within their story. It's his story, as in history. There is nothing in that story that we can actually claim for ourselves because it is not our story. They even created a character for us in their story. In 1582, Pope Gregory changed the Julian sunrise calendar, also known as the Anno Mundi calendar or the Orthodox calendar or the calendar of the East, to the Gregorian Anno Domini calendar of the sunset. That calendar is a timeline that is copyrighted by the Vatican. Thus, all characters born to that timeline, the Vatican has a legitimate claim to. If you're using that AD Western calendar character, you're subjecting yourself to a timeline created for commerce, designed to own the characters that are within it. The first, middle, last character is a character within a copyrighted story, and the author, i.e. Pope Gregory, owns all the characters born to that timeline. See Black's Law 5th edition definition of literary property. Literary property, the exclusive right of owner to possess, use, and dispose of intellectual production, may be described as the right which entitles an author and his assigned to all the use and profit of his composition, to which no independent right is through any act or omission on his or their part vested in another person. To most legal scholars, the Black's Law Dictionary is not considered a law dictionary, but they do contain the language and terms used by the Bar Association, i.e. the bar exam. So even though the Black's Law series is not considered a legal dictionary or a law dictionary, it is a dictionary of legal terms used by the bar out of the District of Columbia. Within the phrase subject matter jurisdiction, the title first, middle, last is only the subject. The subject, first, middle, last, was born to a timeline that has had a copyright since 1582 when Pope Gregory created that world. The matter side of the equation is literally lunacy. They had to create a commercial position to use for business. The AD Gregorian calendar is the calendar of commerce. That title is the name of a character they create for commercial purposes. Its entire existence is based in business. They literally syndicate this character, like Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is a syndicated character, just like the first, middle, last title on the birth certificate. Charlie Brown was in a comic strip that came out every morning in the newspaper. Every morning when I wake up, I put on a character. That character is syndicated. As long as I subscribe to that character, to subscribe is to underwrite. So if I subscribe to that character, I underwrite it, which makes me the guarantor. I become the one that guarantees the payment if one is required in that name. That name is the commercial element. They use that name or title for commerce. That's the only name they use, and without it they have nothing. So that's the subject, that title or character, represented with first, middle, last on the birth certificate. Here's the disturbing factor. We've established what the subject is in regards to subject matter jurisdiction. What's disconcerting is how they attach that subject to the matter pertaining to subject matter jurisdiction, and how that subject matter is attached to you. How do they attach that title to me? Here's what happens. My mother goes into the hospital. She's carrying a package in her womb. When she steps from Georgia, the Republic, into federal territory, the hospital, she doesn't stop by customs to declare that package. And when she delivers that package in the federal territory of the hospital, she doesn't declare that delivery. When she wraps that package up in swaddling clothes and takes that package home with her, she doesn't declare that package on the way out of federal territory. That package is me, the biological baby. So because of this, there is no evidence of my existence from the moment I arrive. On paper, I do not exist. So here's what's happened. Since the beginning of time, when women deliver a baby, there's a second delivery known as the afterbirth. That afterbirth legally is a term called born alive. So my mother delivers me first. I'm the firstborn. Then there's a second coming, if you will, that is the afterbirth. That's the second delivery. When my mother takes me home, there's no evidence of my existence at all. So they take this left behind afterbirth material and DNA. Because no one has claimed it, they then salvage this afterbirth. Since we were delivered through our mother's water, the corporate rules and maritime admiralty law applies. When I'm in my mother's womb, I'm inside that amniotic sac. That's the mothership, or the citizenship. It's the vessel in mother's water that I travel in. When I come out of mother, the vessel I arrived in crashes ashore after I do. So I myself am the first delivery. The second delivery is the vessel I arrive in. It crashes ashore like a shipwreck, and it's then salvaged and has a salvage lien put against it. This is where debt comes into play. So now there's an unclaimed vessel, the afterbirth material, and they take the paperwork that my mother left behind and apply the name on that paperwork to that vessel. So the afterbirth material then has a name. That name is the name that is on the birth certificate in all capital letters in the order of first, middle, last. So first, middle, last is actually the name of the afterbirth material. See Black's Law 5th edition definition of born alive. Being the product of conception after complete expulsion or extraction from mother which breathes or shows any other evidence of life such as beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. Each product of such birth is considered live-born and fully recognized as a human. So all of that garbage waste material that comes out of mom after the baby is called born alive, and it's a legal person. One man's trash is another man's treasure. They take this waste material and they give it your name. Nobody knows about it, no one figures it out, so it just keeps happening. See Black's Law 5th edition definition of foundling. Foundling, a deserted or abandoned infant. A child found without a parent or guardian, its relative being unknown. So the afterbirth that is left behind is called a foundling child and considered a child of God. Thus, it is initiated into the Roman Catholic Church. Even though it's defective and doesn't have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, the church calls it a child of God, so they save it or salvage it. Remember, the words save and salvage mean the same thing. They say that the afterbirth needs salvation. So after you, as the biological baby, are taken home, the left behind child of God afterbirth material has no known parents. The state picks it up and it becomes a ward of the courts and a charge to the state. Everything is based upon that foundling state-created child. From that point forward, all we ever are when we enter a courtroom is a relative of that defective Rain Man character, the matter. The subject is the title, the matter is the physical aspect left behind in the hospital. Therefore, they now have in their private courtrooms subject matter jurisdiction. We can't escape from this because the afterbirth material matches our DNA. The Vatican lays claim to the afterbirth material. In Unum Sanctum from 1302, Pope Boniface VIII, November 18th, it states, "Spiritual man is judgeth of all things, and he himself is judged by no man." In other words, the firstborn biological baby is never to be judged by man. The being that has mind, body, and spirit is your physical body, and that's the spiritual man. That cannot be judged by man. However, this document continues, stating, "Unless he invent like Manichaeus 2 beginnings, which is false and judged by us heretical, since according to the testimony of Moses, it is not in the beginnings, but in the beginning, that God created heaven and earth. Furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for the salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman pontiff." So, once again, it says, "The spiritual man is judgeth of all things, and he himself is judged by no man, unless he invent like Manichaeus 2 beginnings, which is false and judged by us heretical, since according to the testimony of Moses, it is not in the beginnings, but in the beginning, that God created heaven and earth. Furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for the salvation of every human creature to be subject to the Roman pontiff." The afterbirth has been here since the beginning of time. The members of the mystery schools or the priestly castes that have been around for ages have been privy to this process. It's been known and quoted throughout history. The afterbirth always follows baby out. This is nothing new. The Pope says the spiritual man, the firstborn baby, is never to be judged by man, but it's the second-born, second beginning, afterbirth material that is called a human creature that is subject to the Roman law and needs salvation. The afterbirth character has been since 1302 subject to Rome. The firstborn baby is perfect. The secondborn is defective, and it is subject to Rome. Rome, in point of fact, is not claiming anything upon us. We are doing this to ourselves. We are the ones claiming to be the birth certificated person. We're claiming to be the defective second-born afterbirth material. Remember that all of the hospitals are sovereign military order of the Knights of Malta hospitals connected to the Jesuits and the Vatican. So they are collecting all of the afterbirth DNA, which is considered the land of the soul for Rome, increasing the membership of the Catholic Church hourly. All of that collected DNA is the public DNA pool. It's the public pool of DNA. That collective of DNA is the beast, the soulless mass of man. It's the Christ mass, as in Christmas. Because the left behind matter that makes the mass does not have the Christ or life or the I am within it. This is why the victor of Christ, the Pope, has to be the substitute for the Christ, for the afterbirth material. The afterbirth material has no soul. This is why it's subject to Rome. It needs to be salvaged. That's the Christ Mass that everybody is claiming to be a part of. Nobody is claiming to be the firstborn. Everybody is using the birth certificate person now, which puts them in the second position as the afterbirth soulless individual, the beast.